Hi everyone. I would like to go through this persuasive speech really quickly because I think it's really important that you know um, what is a persuasive speech before you actually begin to draft out your outlines. This is because persuasive speech has a very specific format that you have to follow, and if you fail to do that, it will not answer or fulfill the criteria that you need to for the assessment. Okay, so as mentioned before, persuasive speech will be counted as your third and fourth assessment, which is persuasive speech itself is assessment 3 and the portfolio is assessment 4. So persuasive speech carries a lot more weightage than your informative speech, and this requires a lot more time and effort to be put into it. So I hope you guys would start thinking about the topics that you would like to do starting from now and don't put it off until the last minute. Okay, let's not waste any more time. Um, Persuasive speech is actually a speech designed to change or reinforce or make the audience's beliefs or actions stronger. Okay, you intend to change people's minds and hopefully call them to action to do something about it. The difference between the informative speech that you have done before and this upcoming persuasive speech is in the speaker's intent. Informative speech is to increase knowledge, while for persuasive is to change people's minds or action. And in the message purpose, informative speech is to define, describe, explain, compare. In other words, you basically want to teach the audience about something which might be new to them, or to give more details about something which is factual. While on the other hand, persuasive speech is that you want to change something in the audience's responses, okay, and you would like to shape their beliefs to be the same as yours. As for the listener's effect, the informative speech is that to know more than before, which is you increase their knowledge, and to advance what is known, which is if they have already known about the topic, you would like to add to that. Meanwhile, persuasive speech is you want the audience to feel or think differently and to behave or act differently. Okay, lastly, the audience choice is that for informative speech, they willingly learn new knowledge, while for persuasive speech is to change behavior by choice, because at the end of the day we cannot really force people to make their own decisions, and it is really up to you how convincing you can be through the use of language and the actions that you call them to do. Okay, so this is why credibility and the language that you use are really important while doing your speech. So what is a persuasive speech actually? It is to convince someone to think, believe or act as you want them to. You establish a fact, you change a belief of the audience and moves an audience to act on a policy. So the policy that we will be using will be explained later on in the, I think, MONROE'S sequence. Okay, so that is what we are going to talk about also today. Degrees of persuasion. Degrees of persuasion means at what level do you persuade somebody. So some people persuade on small matters, for example, the door-to-door salesperson, taking a study break, while others persuade on more pressing issues. For example, your parents or teachers influence your career decisions. Some friends influence your choices regarding alcohol or smoking. And persuasion is something that we do without us realizing it at so many different levels. Okay, and there are a few types of persuasion. Basically, there are three types. The first one is question of facts. Second is question of value, and the third is question of policy. So these types are really different from each other in that in talking about question of fact, we are talking about something or questioning about something which is factual. For example, an example topic that I've given here is recycling can save the local community money. Um, it's factual, so you want to call to action that people should recycle so that we can save the local community money. Value is more about moral values, and here the words are small schools are better. So better is really a question of value for most students than larger schools are. Um, it has to be factual still, okay, but it plays on a different aspect, which is in questions of value we are talking about the moral values. And the last type is question of policy, which is we are talking about changing the policy of certain states or even country. And in here, the example topic given is high school athletes should be required to maintain a B average. So this might require the influence of the sports ministry or even the school's own um, committee members. Okay, so we'll go into more details about these types of persuasion. So the first one is questions of fact. It is actually a question about the truth or falsity of an assertion. So you would like the audience to accept the speaker's view or actually your view on facts of an issue. So some can be answered with certainty, some cannot. And this is different from an informative speech because in these questions of fact, persuasive speech, you are actually trying to get the audience to accept your view, while for your informative speech, you only wanted them to know. Okay, you don't change their view. So questions of facts are typically or usually organized topically, meaning following topics, and each main point is a reason why audience should agree with you. So you can actually just go on online search and find out more about the examples of questions of fact, okay, and what are the kinds of topic that falls under this type. This is a sample outline for questions of fact. Is let's say we are talking about persuasive speech outline. Um, in here, the example given, the specific purpose is to persuade my audience that another major earthquake will hit Nepal in 2025. The central idea. So central idea, you should always highlight the main ideas of your entire speech. So his or her main idea is there are 3 good reasons to believe that another major earthquake will hit Nepal in 2025. And the main points are listed as such. Okay, and obviously your outline will be more detailed than this. And this is just really the very basic example of questions of fact. So as you can see, when we are talking about really any speech, you have to stick to the facts. And here the main points are the author stated that the Nepalese are long overdue for a major earthquake because there are many geological signs indicate that a major earthquake may happen soon. He also stated that experts agree that a major earthquake could hit Nepal any day. So using evidences and credibility aspects. So you can include that in your main points. Okay. Now, the second type is questions of value. Questions of value is a question about the worth, rightness, morality, and so forth of an idea or an action. This is really a judgment about what is right or wrong, good or bad, moral or immoral, ethical or unethical, and you justify positions according to very clear standards. And this is also usually organized topically. Topically really means you organize according to topic. So I think during your informative speech outline, I have commented on some of your outlines, which is, you don't have clear main ideas. So probably your first main idea should be causes, and your second main idea is about effects. So that is organizing topically. So in these questions of value, you can organize it as such. The first main point establishes standards, and the second main point applies standards to the topic. Okay, so establish, and then the second is applying standard. So this is an example outline for questions of value. You can actually read that later on your own, because I will include this PowerPoint in our Google Classroom. And the third and last type of persuasive speech is questions of policy, which is a question about whether a specific course or action should or should not be taken. This is the question type that you guys would have to do, because this follows the MONROE'S motivated sequence. Questions of policy deal with a specific course of action, meaning you know exactly what the audience need to do, and you would explain that in your speech. This is the most common in persuasive speeches, and often using MONROE'S motivated sequence, which really is a step-by-step speech outline, which is created by a person named Alan Monroe. So he named it MONROE'S motivated sequence. And this falls into two types: passive agreement or motivated audience to take action. So the type that you should be doing is questions of policy and motivating audience to take action, because everything in your persuasive speech should call for immediate action. Okay, so passive agreement is not really suitable in our ELC590. Okay, this is the outline example, and you can reread this later. Now let's go into MONROE'S motivated sequence. It has 5 steps, and the first step is attention, which is you need to gain attention of audience, and this is obviously in the introduction. And as with your informative speech outline, I have commented on quite a number of people's outline, which is you need to make your you need to make your introduction more interesting. Avoid cliches, avoid very general or vague introduction. You need to think of how you can gain people's attention. The second is the need. This one, you need to make the audience feel the need for change, because if they don't feel this, then they will not continue listening to you. So what can you raise to explain that they have the need to change? Satisfaction is the next step, which is you satisfy the audience's need by providing solution to the problems, because once you raise that feeling of need, then the audience would like to know how can they solve that problem. Okay, the fourth step is visualization, which is you intensify desire for solution by visualizing its benefits. Visualizing is apart from using pictures. Obviously, you can visualize a solution using words. Okay, and the last one is action, and this obviously is an urge for the audience to take action in support of solution, and this would fall in the last step of your speech. So this is an example of a MONROE'S motivated sequence in persuasive speech outline. So first step until the last step, and I would like to encourage you to match it to this: attention, need, satisfaction, visualization, and action to this. Okay, take note of the language that they use, and this example is just one of the many that you can find online. So please do some research before you proceed doing your own outline. Okay, why do we need to use MONROE'S sequence? This is actually an organizational pattern. You don't really have to think about anything else other than MONROE'S sequence is really very helpful in helping you to organize a very effective persuasive speech. It develops a sense of need or want in the audience. It offers satisfaction. to the audience for their need and wants, and you actually get the audience excited about the advantages of that solution. So your main goal in this Monroe sequence during the attention stage. Okay, so now we are looking at the first stage of Monroe sequence, which is attention. So your goal is to get the audience to listen. You need to use attention-getting devices to gain interest and ease the audience into the topic. So again, let me remind you that you don't have to shout, you don't have to show videos. You can just use as simple as a question in order to gain interest. And you need to also choose something which is familiar to the audience. Do not ask a question about the US because basically that is where you get most of your facts from, the US, and it's not going to be familiar with your audience. So choose something which is localized, especially in the Malaysian context. Okay, in this attention stage, do not offer your solution during this step, and you need to relate the attention directly to the audience. Okay, so as I've mentioned, you need to make it something familiar to the audience. So the second stage in Monroe sequence is the need, which is the goal is to get the audience to feel a need or want, meaning you need to get the audience to agree with you. Okay, so there are a few steps that you can do in your need stage, which is a statement, illustration, ramification, and pointing. And you need to show that the problem exists, it is a significant problem, and it won't go away by itself, meaning the audience need to do something about it. But first, they need to agree with you. The third stage of Monroe sequence is satisfaction, and the goal is to tell the audience how to feel the need or want. And again, there are a few steps. You don't really need to follow each of these steps, but this is really a suggestion on how you can make it really organized. Okay, 5 steps. First is a statement, then you explain. There is a theoretical demonstration, reference to practical experience, meet the objections, and solutions can be specific or general. I would give you a few sample outlines and for you to compare all these stages and steps in each stage. The fourth stage of Monroe sequence is visualization. This is for you to get the audience to see the benefits of the solution. You can use one of the 3 options, which is the positive method, which is if the audience do what you suggest, what are the benefits, or you can choose to do the negative method. If the audience choose not to do what you suggested, what are the negative effects? Or option C, the contrast method, you do both, which is you compare the positive and the negative if the audience do or do not do what you suggested. Okay, so you tell the audience what will happen if they don't do something about the problem in visualization stage. So lastly is you need to call for action in Monroe sequence. The goal is to get the audience to take action. This call for action needs to be brief, meaning short and to the point, powerful. Is it something the audience can debate with? So if it's not, then make sure it's powerful. Well worded, you need to really choose your words carefully, and you need to end on a strong note, meaning when you finish your speech, people will feel more empowered than before and they will feel an urgent need to do the action that you have just suggested. So here you offer alternatives to your audience that they can do personally to help solve the problem. Do not just offer one, but probably, when they cannot do one, then you need to suggest a few other alternatives to solve the problem. Okay, so during this call for action, there are 3 types of appeals that you can use. Well, ultimately, it's in persuasive speech, you use 3 various appeals. The first is pathos. I think it's a Greek word. It calls for emotional appeal. You cite specifics, meaning you cite facts, use vivid language, and you include personal references. So this calls for personal stories, and I think some of you did that in your informative speech. You use personal references because as human beings, we are really attracted to emotional appeal. Um, I wouldn't say it is the best, but it has worked on so many levels, whether at international levels, professional speeches. Emotional appeals always work. Well, most of the time it works. Okay, other than pathos, you also have ethos. This establish your character and ethics. This is especially true in academic speeches, which is you need to show that you are competent or you are credible to be talking about your topic. Um, be sincere and genuine in your delivery. Be energetic and enthusiastic about your topic. Prove that you are a credible voice on your topic. So remember the three speeches that I have asked you to do. Most of you have chose Bjork because many of you chose that he is the best, or you the speaker that you most preferred because he showed that he is competent in talking about his topic just from looking at his body language. um, so when you are doing a speech, remember that it's not just verbal, it is also non-verbal. uh, and one interesting thing is that many of you said that Bill Gates is your least preferred speaker because he doesn't seem genuine in his delivery, as he likes to put his hands in his pocket. So, without even listening to the language, you can actually judge a person's character just from their body language. Okay, so always keep in mind that when I am explaining about different speeches, it includes verbal and non-verbal gestures as well. Okay, and the third appeal is logos. This is where you apply logical reasoning, and this is especially true for research or when you want to present your thesis or viva. For your degree, master, and PhD level, you need to use reasons supported by evidence to explain your claim. Evidence from your life experience, evidence from your research, evidence from other people. Okay, so you can use any of these three appeals in your speech. So look at the topic. It says that persuasive speeches use various appeals, and no matter what kind of appeal you use, you need to firstly maintain ethical standards. So ethical, firstly, in ELC590, to me, it means do not plagiarize. Okay, you need to also stand by the credibility of the sources that you have cited or referenced, because it is really important that you cite from the right sources to maintain ethics. Do not spread the wrong facts. It is also unethical for public speakers to lie or deceive, to distort, meaning you change the facts, to engage in name calling. You do not sabotage somebody in your speech, to attack a person or an idea without giving evidence. Okay, so whenever you talk about an opposite idea or about an idea which is against yours, do not attack it except if you have very solid evidence, and to deny the opposition to right to reply. So you have to be ready whenever you present a speech, let's say later on outside of your ITM. You have to be prepared that somebody will definitely speak against you. So you cannot deny that, and you have to let them speak to hear what they have to say, because it's really good. Remember in the first week when we started, when giving speeches, it's not just about talking, it is also about listening, right? So both skills are really important when you are giving a persuasive speech. And the last one is you need to avoid manipulating your audience. You need to persuade them, do not manipulate them. I'm not going to go into how you can manipulate the audience because really there are so many. So please avoid that. Right, so that is all for persuasive speech. I will include this slide